Hello everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Destiny video. Today Fantasy Flight released a bunch of spoilers for Empire at War, the upcoming third set for Star Wars Destiny. We're going to take a look at the cards, break them down, I'm going to give my thoughts on them, and we're going to move into those cards right now. And first up, we have the little card preview from the article. All of the cards have been fully spoiled, so we'll get to them a little bit later in the video. The only card in this little preview that wasn't completely spoiled was Chopper. So, one resource, a support, one melee, disrupt, resource, special, and blank. And we don't know what that special does. But it would be cool if it was something like Electroshock, considering that Chopper is on the Electroshock card. Not the alternate art one, but the original one. If it was, the special was to remove a die with a value of 2 or less. That would be pretty cool. And the rest of the cards we're going to move into right now. All right, and the first character spoiled was Thrawn. They spoiled the artwork a while ago, but here we have the complete card. So Thrawn, Master Strategist, legendary, 12 health, 14, 17 for his cost, 1 focus, 2 focus, disrupt, shield, 2 resources, and a blank. And his ability: after you activate this character, you may choose a number, then look at an opponent's hand and discard a card from their hand that costs the same as the number that you guessed. So if you guess 3, they show you their hand. You'd be like, okay, there's a lightsaber, get rid of that. Or whatever the cost might be. I think he's going to go really well with maybe somebody like Kylo. So Kylo can use a special, look at a random card in their hand, and they take damage based on the cost. It goes back in their hand. Then you roll out Thrawn, and you say, okay, I'm going to guess 4. Be like, okay, there's 4. You have a Mind Probe. Get rid of it. So they take damage from Kylo Special and then have to get rid of the card. I could also see him pairing well with in a yellow deck where you can get access to like friends in low places. Look at your opponent's hand, discard, I think, an event that causes 1 or less from it, and then you just have to make a mental note of what the other cards in their hand cost. Roll out Thrawn, guess. I mean, I'm using that in air quotes because you've already seen it. Guess that number, and then they discard that card. Some issues with him though. So I really like the focus sides, and his resource side is pretty cool because it's 2 resources. The ability is really good. The cost is a little weird. So even at a single die, it's 14 points. I'm kind of theory crafting a build with him currently, where I think I've got him teamed up. So non-elite Thrawn for 14. Night Sister for 8, and a Guavian for 8. So 16 um, and 14 for 30. You get access to blue with the Night Sister, yellow with the Guavian. You get access to a lot of good dice removal with both yellow and blue, as well as the access to like friends in low places. You could also use probe with Thrawn. So play probe, look at 2 random cards in their hand, discard any of them that are events, and if you don't draw any events, they say you draw like a couple upgrades. Just make a mental note of what those upgrades cost, and then when you roll Thrawn in, you guess the number of the upgrade that you looked at, and they have to discard it. No damage sides, so but as we've seen with Unkar Jabba, you don't really need damage sides to potentially like mill your opponent out, make them have no resources. So Thrawn's discard ability is really interesting and really cool. So I'm kind of theory crafting a deck. I may do a video about that. Of course, it's just based on what we have currently and the spoiler for Thrawn. So that's Thrawn. I really like Thrawn. I want to get at least one of him. I think running him at 17 might be a little too expensive. But I do like his focus sides. He's got disrupt, shields, resources as well, and that ability is just really insane. So that's Thrawn. We're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have Mace Windu, Jedi Champion, 12 health, 16, 22, so even more expensive than Awakening's Vader side. So 2 melee damage, 2 melee damage, 4 damage at the cost of a resource, a shield, a resource, and a blank, and has an ability or an action: remove this die to defeat a character with 2 or less remaining health. So if a character is shielded up, and they only have, let's say they have Anakin or Baby Vader at 9 damage, you remove Mace Windu's die and deal 2 damage, defeating that character even if they're shielded up. That's pretty interesting. Um, his cost is really high, but I can see him pairing with a couple characters. We're going to get to one of them later in the video, and that's Ezra. He's a 7 cost hero. We'll discuss him in just a bit. But I can see him being paired with Maz. So maybe fast hands on Mace, fast hands on Maz, possibly. Anyway, roll in Mace, resolve one of his dice with fast hands. Later, roll in Maz, resolve up to 2. If you get focus, you can focus him into his 4 damage side, pay that resource and deal 4 damage. Also, very high health at 12. So I think he's going to be very interesting. Very expensive at elite though, but you can still pair him with another single die. So you can pair him with like a Padawan, pair him with Maz, pair him with a Rebel Trooper, and use that Guardian ability on the Rebel Trooper to remove damage that may go after or be used to damage Mace. So that's Mace Windu. We're going to move into our next card. And our next card is Master of the Council. It's a blue unique. 4 resources, plus 3 melee, plus 4 melee, 2 shields, 2 resources, 2 specials. Blue character only, and special is exhaust this upgrade and spend 2 resources to ready a character. Kind of expensive to use, so 4 resources to play it. The special requires you to also have 2 resources available, but a really cool ability. So let's say you have this on a character, you roll out your heavy hitter, Mace Windu, like we just saw. Roll him out. You have this say, even though Mace is on the artwork, let's say you have this on another character, like a Padawan or something like that. So roll out the Padawan with Master of the Council, special, pay 2 resources, ready Mace, and roll him out and just do a massive amount of damage again. Or if you're also maybe running Cargo Hold, you can play this on a blue character, slide it off onto somebody like Maz, then roll Maz, resolve 2 dice. If you've already rolled Mace, let's say you have this on Maz, roll her in, 2 resources, spend 2 resources, and ready Mace. So if you're using the Cargo Hold, you can switch this upgrade to a character that isn't blue. Damage sides, I like the you have a like a 1 in 3 chance, or like a 1/3 chance to roll the damage. The damage is good, so plus 3, plus 4. But I really do like the specials, even though you have to pay the 2 resources to use it. That could make the difference in a game. So if you have your heavy hitter rolled out and your opponent just needs a couple more damage to be defeated, pay the 2 resources and ready the characters. Use a special on Master of the Council. Ready that character, roll them out, and just resolve damage and possibly win the game. So 4 resources, again, kind of expensive, but you can play like a Force Training and overwrite that with Master of the Council. And Force Training also has the modified range and modified melee sides, but you can then basically just pay 2 resources, get this out, and have a plus 3 or a plus 4, as well as the ability to use the special. So that's Master of the Council. We're going to move into our next card. And next up we have Ezra Bridger, Force Sensitive Thief, 7 health, and costs either 7 or 10. So the very first hero character that costs 7. Their other cheapest character is like Padawan and Rebel Trooper at 8. But anyway, 1 range damage, plus 2 range damage, disrupt, resource, special, and blank. And the ability, you may play blue upgrades on this character, ignoring the play restrictions. And his special is take 1 resource from an opponent. So you claim the special, and they don't just get rid of it, you actually get it. So it's they essentially will just give you that resource, or you just gain 1, they lose 1, essentially. 7 cost hero, so now you can run 5 dice decks. I suppose you can run single cost Ezra, Elite Maz for 11, bring it up to 18. Ray, bring her in. So Elite Ray, Elite Maz, single Ezra. Other ways to build that out as well. But the very first hero card with a 7 cost. So 7 for a single, 10 for an elite. You still have 20 points to spend. So you can actually run Elite Ezra, Elite Jin. That might be an interesting deck. I'm running Jin Commando currently with training on the Commando, but this will give you access to more range damage. You want to build a more um, aggro deck for Jin. So Jin has the two range damage sides, the two discard sides. Throw Ezra in. Elite has the 1 and the +2. So he could be pretty interesting. I'm not sure about the upgrades thing because he has 7 health. So as soon as you, unless you're playing like maybe like something that is redeployable on him, because he only has 7, so he's has the same amount of health as a stormtrooper. Um, if you're not going to be playing your expensive blue upgrades on him, unless of course they're redeployable, because he can essentially just get like one shot in and be out. But that's Ezra. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Prepare for War, villain event, 0 resources. Play only if it is the first action of this round. No player has taken an action, and you gain 1 resource. So let's say you claim the battlefield, or you start on your battlefield in the beginning of the game. Um, Play Prepare for War, get a resource. Very situational, so you can use it first round of the game if you have the battlefield, and it can only be the first action of the round for either player, not just your first action. So it says no player has taken an action. I don't know how I feel about this, especially you do have to essentially be in control of the battlefield to use it for one. And secondly, if anybody's done anything else that round, this card will be pretty much useless that entire round. However, if you go first, play this, get a resource, you then have 3 resources. You can drop like the Riot Baton on in the first round without having to um, resolve a die for a resource. So I suppose you could do something like that. Not really sure how I feel about this. It could also be good to just discard for a reroll, but having to have no actions taken by either player to have this work seems like it's not going to be super useful. But that's like I said, I suppose you can do it, get the resource, and then play a 3-cost upgrade, like not right away, but in the first round without having to do anything else. But that's Prepare for War. We're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have Ruthless Tactics, 0 resource villain event. Resolve one of your dice, increasing its value by the resource cost showing on it. This seems kind of strange. So you pay 0, you resolve a die with a resource cost, so let's say rocket launcher, 4 damage side. You still have to pay the resource to resolve that, however, you then increase it by 1. So it becomes from a 4 damage for a resource, it becomes 5 for a resource. I think this is going to be very situational. Maybe you just need to get that 1 extra damage out of a resource cost inside, and then you could play this and increase it. But if you basically have to be playing a deck that has a lot of resource costs and stuff in it. So, Stormtroopers have the resource cost side. The rocket launcher has its resource sides. The ATSC has its resource sides, and things like that. I don't know. I think that's kind of almost like not a waste of a card slot. It might be, but it might get you the 1 extra damage that you need to defeat a character. So if you have like the rocket launcher, 3 for a resource, and your opponent has 4 health left, no shields, Ruthless Tactics, pay the resource and do 4 damage instead of 3. I suppose I can see that working, but I see it being extremely situational. I don't know if I would ever run it. I just have to see. I would have to see it in action before I could, make a determination on how good this card is. Currently, I think it's a little too situational for me to like run in my decks, but we're just gonna have to wait and see when Empire at War, when more and more cards get spoiled, how this fits into the actual set. So that's Ruthless Tactics. We're gonna move into our next card. All right, next up we have Quick Escape. 1 resource, Yellow Hero Event. Remove up to 2 dice showing damage, either ranged or melee, and then you must pass all of your future turns this round. So if you have a character that's almost dead, or your opponent has lethal damage on them, I suppose you could pay the resource, remove their dice, and then maybe live to fight another day or fight another round and potentially win. However, you do have to pass all your future turns this round, which also means you won't be able to claim the battlefield. So probably going to be very situational. Going to be used to maybe more like late game where you just need to not have a character die that round, and you can um, pay the resource, remove their damage. Let's say it's their last two dice and they've discarded all they can to do rerolls. They don't have anything else to discard, and they're sitting on let's say 4 range damage, 2 on 2 and a +2 or something like that. Play this, remove both those dice. You get to pass all your future turns, but that's probably going to be the end of the round anyway. Your opponent will claim the battlefield, doing whatever the effect is, and then it'll go back to you. I can see this working with characters that have fast hands. So let's say both you and your opponent are almost defeated. You play this to remove damage that would be used to defeat your character to win the game. They remove those dice. Let's say they've done all their discard for rerolls. They remove them. They claim end the round, and then it goes into a new round. They roll. Let's say they don't have fast hands because they claim they get to go first. They roll. You roll with fast hands and do enough damage to win. I can see that being useful. However, it's going to be something you're going to want to probably play late in the round. You don't want to do this very early, especially because you're going to have to pass the rest of your turns that round. But that's Quick Escape. We're going to move into our next card. And the final card that was spoiled today was The Day Is Ours. 2 resources, a neutral red event. Claim the battlefield even if an opponent has claimed it this round. So let's say your opponent claims the battlefield. I'm thinking this will work well with Planetary Uprising. So let's say you have Planetary Uprising out, and your opponent essentially just claims the battlefield to at least prevent you from claiming the battlefield, triggering your Planetary Uprising. You pay 2 resources, play The Day Is Ours, claiming the battlefield, triggering your Planetary Uprising. I can see that working, or also if you just needed to get the effect of the battlefield for something to happen. Let's say um, you're playing on Separatist base, Separatist base on Mustafar, which is claim do 1 unblockable damage to a character. Let's say your opponent claims the battlefield. They do 1 unblockable to you. Your character isn't defeated, but their character only has 1 health remaining. Pay 2 resources. The Day Is Ours. Claim the battlefield, doing the 1 damage to win the game. I can see that happening as well. I like the situation with Planetary Uprising, especially if you have both Planetary Uprisings out. They claim to prevent it. You pay 2 to claim the battlefield, thus triggering Planetary Uprising, even though they had claimed it to prevent it. Again, I see this being probably a very situational card, but I can see it doing a lot of interesting things as well. So that's The Day Is Ours. That's the final card that was spoiled today. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time, and take care.